Hey guys, we are going to install Windows 10 Workstation now, and after the completion of the installation, we'll join this Windows 10 Workstation to our domain controller. So to begin with, we'll have to click on New, and then we'll have to enter the name of the virtual machine, which will be WKS1, and this will be Microsoft Windows, and the version will be Windows 10 64-bit, and then click next, and the memory size will be 2 GB, which is fine. Create a virtual hard disk now. We'll go ahead and click create, and hard disk type will be VMDK. Let's click next. It will be dynamically allocated. Click next, and then we'll go ahead and click on create, and our virtual machine shell is ready, but it's powered off. So to power on, we'll have to click on start, and we'll have to click on this up pointing green icon. We'll have to click on add to point to our ISO file for Windows 10 workstation, which is the first one, and then click open and click choose, click start, and once the installation process begins, this will give us some default option to choose. So we'll go ahead and leave the default option and click next, click install now, and once it begins, we will click onto the I accept the license terms. We'll go ahead and click on next, and we'll choose the custom install Windows only. We'll click on next, and now the installation process of the Windows 10 workstation begins. This is going to take some time, and we'll prepare the workstation as soon as it finishes the installation process. We'll come back soon. After it rebooted, we got the screen for Windows 10 workstation. We'll go ahead and choose the region, and this will ask us few options which we need to set up in order to complete the Windows 10 workstation installation. Keyboard will be US, of course. Second keyboard we really do not need, so you can skip this option. And this will also prompt for the security settings for like location setup, internet browser settings, and so on. So we'll continue setting them up when it prompts. When it prompts to sign in with Microsoft, we will not use our Microsoft logon. We'll have to click on domain join instead, because we'll be using local user ID and password, which we'll create. And here we'll have to enter the name of the user who is going to use this PC, and this will be the administrator user ID. So we can name anything. I'll use green as admin logon, and click on next, and we'll have to enter the password. We'll confirm password, and this will ask some security question, so you'll have to pick up the right question that you need to answer. We'll have to select that question, as well as we'll have to enter the answer. So I'll go ahead and enter the answer as test, but you'll have to answer the question that you want to enter as answer. And after then it will create the user account and password, and this will ask do more across devices with activity history. I mean, you can enable this, but I'll go ahead and click no, I don't want to do that, and get help from your digital assistant. Accept, yes. And privacy settings, I try to disable them all because I don't want to enable them. Sometimes they make system really sluggish, but you'll have to be mindful to enable them if you want. So keep them enabled if you really want to have those options, but for during lab session I'll go ahead and disable all those options, and then click accept. And now admin user is going to log on, so this is going to take some time. As soon as we'll get desktop, we'll finish up the other configuration that will require to join this workstation to our domain. We have got our Windows 10 workstation desktop. Now we can go ahead and check the computer name, and the network icon. We can see there is no disconnection symbol or no internet connection, which means it's connected to internet as well. And we'll go to this search option and enter PC. uh, then we'll get this PC icon. We'll right click and then click properties, and see this workstation has the default computer name. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and change the PC name uh, to something else that we want. So I'll go ahead and enter it as WKS1, which is workstation 1. Click OK and click OK. Click close and restart now. So that way our Windows 10 workstation is ready. We just installed and configured Microsoft Windows 10 workstation, and we also changed the name of this PC. And whenever you change the name of the PC, that requires a complete restart, otherwise it will not work. So now it restarted. We'll go ahead and use our local admin user ID and password. If you do remember, our local admin username was green, so we'll go ahead and use that one. So it's already there. If not, we'll have to enter that. So green, and the password is whatever we kept for the admin password. So now it's going to log on, and it's going to give us the desktop, and we'll check the network settings at this point, because we'll have to add the DNS address to point it to the domain controller. That way, if we can do that, then we can join this workstation to our domain controller. So where do we need to go and check the DNS settings? So this will be the network icon. So we'll right click on it and click open network and internet settings. This is going to take some time. So let's pull out the network settings, and then we'll go ahead and click change connection properties, and we'll click on, we'll have to move a little bit. Let's exit from the screen again, right click onto the network, open network and internet settings, and click Ethernet, and then click change connection properties, we are not going to switch the app, so we'll go back and click onto the change adapter options. Again, we can go back and see what we had, why did pop out the different kind of screen. So we'll right click onto the Ethernet and then open network and internet settings, and then click Ethernet, and then click change adapter options, and then we'll have to right click onto the Ethernet and go to properties, and there you go. So we have got the TCP IPv4, and now IP address, let's leave it as it is, to obtain an IP address automatically, because we don't need any static IP address for the workstations, but we'll have to use the DNS address for server. So use the following DNS server address. We'll have to click on this, and if you do remember, our DNS address, our IP address for the domain controller was 192.168.1.10. If we forgot, then we'll have to go back to the DC, log in, and check the IP address for the domain controller. So I'll go ahead and log in to the domain controller to make sure that we entered the right DNS address. So I'll go to the command prompt and then enter ipconfig. So that's the 192.168.1.10, and that's our domain controller. So we'll come back to the workstation, and where we need to enter our DNS address, which is 192.168.1.10, and the Google DNS would be 8888, and that's it. So now our workstation is configured and prepared to join to our domain controller. So the next step would be, from search, we'll have to enter PC. That will get my computer or this PC. So right click there, properties, and then you have to click on change settings, and then click change, and there is an option called domain. So our domain name is contoso.local. So if we forgot what is our domain name, so we can go back to our domain controller and start Active Directory users and computers, and see that's the domain name that we used before. So once we click OK, this will prompt to enter the administrator user ID and password for the domain controller. So our domain controller administrator user ID is administrator at contoso.local, and password is whatever password we entered for the domain controller. So the moment you click OK, it will give a prompt called welcome to the contoso.local domain. If you had missed any of the steps, you will not get this. So you'll have some kind of error. So click OK and click OK, click close and restart now. So after the system restarts, what we'll do is we'll use our domain controller admin user ID and password to log on to our workstation. What we'll do is, as soon as workstation will be started, we will not use the local user ID and password for the workstation. We'll be using our domain controller admin user ID and password to make sure that we can log on from workstation to the domain controller. That way we can test that we are able to log on to the domain controller. So that's our login screen. So let's click on input, keyboard, insert all, control delete. So this is the green, which is our local admin password for the workstation. We are not going to use that. We'll click on other users, and our domain controller admin user ID is administrator at contoso.local, and you need to enter the password. So if it doesn't work, if the password doesn't work, it will not work. So since this will be our first time log on, then this will give you all this prompt. This will prepare our desktop, this will configure our profile, and then it will log on to our system. We have logged on as domain controller admin user ID and password from our Windows 10 workstation. And now how would we know that this workstation is joined to the domain? So if we go to the search and then enter the PC, and then we get to the icon for this PC, right click there, properties, and then we'll see the full computer name is wks-1.contoso.local, and domain is contoso.local, which means this workstation is connected to our domain controller. And how do you know which user is logged on? We can click on the search and then click CMD, and then we can enter who am I. That we can see we are logged on as administrator from the Contoso domain. So guys, that's how we just configured Windows 10 workstation, and we also learned how to join this Windows 10 workstation to our domain controller using the domain controller admin user ID and password. And this is how you can build your lab. You can if it doesn't work, you can delete your virtual machine and start it over. So if you have any question, concern, you can leave your question and concern onto this video as a comment, and I'll try to get back to you as early as possible. So thanks for watching, and I'm sure this was informative for you. Looking forward to be seeing more tutorials soon. Thank you.